how did it feel being killed as Prowl? I said, I loved it. Who wants to work? What are you kidding me? How do I feel? Get out. And then they killed me as Sven, and they said, when they told me, we're going to kill you as my character in as Duke, and I said, kill Don Johnson. Who cares about him? Don't kill me. And they talked about it, and they said, fine, maybe we'll come up with another toy.
You might have known him as Duke, Major Bludd, Xamot, Clutch, bunch more from G.I. Joe. He was Prowl, Scrapper, Sideswipe, Swoop, and Bombshell on Transformers. He was characters in Voltron, Darkwing Duck. I mean, if I read his IMDb, it would take way too much time. So I'd like to bring out Mr. Michael Bell. And this next voice actor, he was Michelangelo in the original Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles cartoon, the OG. He was the Tick in, the Tick. And he was Sentinel Prime in Transformers Animated, Riot and Gem, many, many more. Mr. Townsend Coleman. Cowabunga! Thank you so much, guys, for joining us today. How are you enjoying the con so far?
Do you have a child booster for me?
I don't, I'm sorry. But if you want, you can take the microphone out of the holder and just hold it.
Yeah, I think I'll do that.
Don't let it fall over on you. I'm like, oh!
Yeah, my God.
We'll get this out of your way. And
okay. How you liking the con?
Hey, it's so great, huh?
Good.
What about
We're
you?
having a good time, aren't we?
Something else, eh?
Okay.
Awesome. We're glad you're here. And when you guys have questions, please put up your hands. We have Tom over here. He is going to run around like Donahue with the microphone. You're at a RetroCon. You should know who Donahue is, okay? But I do have a couple questions for you guys to start us off. Because we grew up listening to you portray some of our favorite characters on TV.
You never grew up.
Okay, I didn't grow up.
Okay.
Some of them might have. They're like adulting. What the heck is that all about?
There you go, right?
But who are the actors who played your favorite characters growing up?
Well, Doss Butler is the first one that pops to mind just because I was a big fan of all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons. So, Yogi Bear, Huckleberry Hound, all of the Captain Crunch.
Captain Crunch.
Yeah.
Mel Blanc for me.
Yeah. Mel Blanc is a legend.
Yeah.
Of course.
And those, hey, boo-boo, you have great taste, gentlemen, I have to say. Now, every voice actor is asked usually, how do I get into voice acting? And every one of them has said acting is the key.
Mm-hmm.
What were your early acting experiences that got you ready for these amazing careers?
Golly, well, I remember when I was in fourth grade, I went to a school outing to go see Mary Poppins. And when I saw that, it was my first time seeing live theater. And that's when I said, that's what I want to do. And so I started doing theater when I was in junior high, and then through my young adulthood. And but it was really, I got to tell you, Kyle, it was my dad who really sort of got me going early on as a little kid. My folks met working at NBC in New York at 30 Rock, and my dad's goal was to be an announcer for the network, and it never worked out for him. But I remember when I was a little kid listening. He loved old time radio dramas and radio theater. And so I remember as a little kid, 4 or 5 years old, lying in front of this giant speaker cabinet, trying to get my head like right up against the grill of the speaker, because I thought that all these characters were going on inside this box, and I wanted to be a part of it. So that's really kind of where it was born for me. Yeah.
Those characters are not inside the box?
Yeah. Well, I never got inside the box to find out.
Oh, okay. Mine was pretty much a radio, I guess, early radio, long before you were born.
Yeah. Right.
And I would listen to the morning shows, and Archie Andrews was on radio, and all those Let's Pretend, all those great shows. And then my mom took me to Radio City Music Hall to see them record it. And I thought I would see those people who I thought looked like they were going to be, and they didn't look anything like the characters they portrayed. And I thought, where are the magical things? Let's pretend. Where are the fairies and the goblins and the witches? These are people. But it was so interesting. And years later at Hanna-Barbera, I got to work with some of those actors. Right. And I was in awe that I'm working with them, and I'm either guest starring or starring in that series. And that, I think, is what kind of got me. And of course, being a movie kid, I lived in the movies. Nothing mattered to me but movies. And then going to see on Broadway Mary Martin in Peter Pan.
Yeah, there you go.
The first Peter Pan.
Right.
So that was galvanized me. I think from the time I was 5 or something like that. Yeah.
Well, I have to say the voice casting was good because you definitely look like a turtle, and you definitely look like you run G.I. Joe as Duke.
Right.
Again, if you have questions, no better way to show your love for these guys than to ask some questions. So please go ahead and put up your hands, and Tom will come around. I could talk to them all day, and I will. I don't know if you want to see that. And we have a couple questions over here. First question.
This is for Townsend. So for Sentinel Prime, for animated, obviously they changed his color and design to match the tick. As you know, the new Transformer movie coming out in like 2 weeks, Transformers 1, they continued that tradition with Sentinel Prime with the big chin, the blue, and all that. How does that feel to know that one of your most well-known performances as the tick continues to move onwards in design with Sentinel Prime in Transformers?
I got to tell you, when they cast me as Sentinel, I didn't know at the time that they were fans of the Tick. So I wasn't aware that they had redesigned Sentinel Prime to look like the Tick, big blue chin, the whole 9 yards. But then when I got to the first session, they told me that they were huge fans of the show, and they wanted me to do a character that was very similar to the Tick, and I was a little hesitant to do that. I didn't want to recreate something I already done. So they wanted to make him just a little bit more of a jerk and, that kind of thing. But it was very flattering to have been cast in that because of that. So, yeah, thanks.
And you did a very good job portraying that jerkiness as Sentinel. Sentinel
I got
acting.
I got the jerk thing down. Yeah. Great. Cool.
We had another question over here.
Okay, first, I'd like to thank Mr. Townsend for being such an integral part of my son's childhood. I probably heard you in my sleep. There was a time I could tell you anything and you wanted to know about the Ninja Turtles, and I didn't care.
Yeah, right.
But, Mr. Bell, for one thing, you mentioned people you worked with. How was it working with Alan Alda and Mike Farrell? I have been watching MASH literally as long as I can remember, and I can pretty much recite. The second I was I found out who you were, I was like, and I called my sister to tell her that someone from MASH was going to be here. She's like, who? I was like, I create jobs.
Well, I got cast in MASH in an odd way. There was a wonderful actor who was an old friend, and he was out playing baseball watching baseball game with the producer, who has been around for years. And the producer said to him as they were watching the game, he said, I can't seem to find any more actors to guest star. I think I've gone through everybody. And he said, well, what about Michael Bell? And he said, oh yeah, he hasn't done that yet. And that's how I got the role. I mean, call it, it's strange and odd, especially today when everybody reads for the same role in LA, and then you have to get approval from network, and no approval. I just walked in, and then as it turned out, the director was an actor I had seen in City Across the River, which is an old movie about the Amboy Dukes. He played a character called Crazy, and I thought he was really wonderful when I saw that. And I didn't realize that when he was directing, he was a little crazy. He directed me in a way that I didn't want to be directed. He directed me to play the guy bad, play him like a bad guy. In other words, twirl your mustache, and I'm not going to do that because I don't believe that's how he was, and I don't think you play a bad guy bad. And we argued, and I walked off the set, which I always want to do. And Alan came over, and Loretta Swit came over, and they sat down, and Mike Farrell sat down. They said, we wondered how long it was going to take you before you got pissed off at him. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, he can't direct us because we've been doing this for years. We know our characters. You're the only one he can direct the guest star. I said, well, he guessed wrong. So I wound up doing it my way, and I think he died a short time after that, as I recall. In any event, that's my MASH story. Yeah.
Well, speaking of odd castings, is it harder to do a voice for a live person than it was to do a cartoon? How did you manage to embody Peter Criss, and did you try to copy his real voice?
Oh, Peter Criss, no. I didn't, I'm not a big rock fan, so I didn't even know who Kiss was, to be perfectly honest. And they said, we have one of the singers, and Chris, this guy named Chris, had some issues, some whatever. So they said, would you do his voice? And I said, sure. And they said, it's going to be really a big movie. Were they wrong? Ooh, what a bad movie. But it was work. And I wound up seeing the movie, and I said, oh, if I could erase that, maybe have Townsend redo me or something. It was so caca. But it's an underground, silly film. It's one of those things you take a lot of drugs to watch. Yeah.
There you go.
Luckily, they're more legal. We have another question over here. Awesome.
Hi, thank you both for being here. Since you portray characters that are animated, have any companies asked to take your voices and just capture them for like Hallmark ornaments or action figures for like lifelong production? Did they ever say, we're going to use your voice and keep it and put it in toys for the rest of our production lines?
Wow. Well, as it just so happens, I signed some things today for the Voltron, and these were lions, and I heard the voices, and my voices were on the toy, and no one came to me and said, can I use your voice?
Really?
So I contacted my agent, who also handles Neil Ross, the wonderful Neil Ross. Neil did sign a contract with them to allow him to use his voice, and he got paid for it. And I got 2 peanuts and a fig Newton. So I just contacted my agent and said, look into it. Yes, they certainly did use my voice. They lifted it from the series for a Blue Lion. Yeah.
So the 2 peanuts and the fig Newton you had to buy yourself as well.
I had to buy that.
They didn't even give you.
That's right.
Please.
Yeah, early on for us on Ninja Turtles, I remember they were coming out with some talking turtle figures that they did not contract with us for. They were just figuring that they could skirt around it and just, put our voices on these things and not let us know, and we wouldn't find out about it and something like that. It was ridiculous. And, now with AI being and becoming more and more of a problem and becoming more and more powerful, this very issue, I think, is just going to explode for voice actors. It's a real problem.
A very good friend who's a voice actress, not mention her name, found out that they lifted her voice from a game and placed it on an adult game.
Oh, really?
And one of her friends called her and said, "Do you doing adult games?" She said, "No, I don't do porno. At least if I don't get paid for it, I don't do porno." And so she called, and sure enough, they lifted her character. So we're on the watch. Everybody's being very, very careful now.
Yeah.
All right, another question over here.
First of all, I'm very happy to see the two of you here. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Michael Bell, I don't know if you know this, but there's I'm sorry. Okay, so Hasbro's making new types of Transformers where they transform by remote control and they have the original voice actors voice them. Do you think you would ever go back to voicing these Transformers that are done by remote control. They're called RoboSen.
They're called what?
RoboSen.
I know nothing about it. Oh.
Yeah, well, basically, they're the Transformers that transform by themselves. Already an Optimus Prime was out, and currently Megatron.
Oh, these are these giant things?
Oh, they're very giant.
Yes, I got, they called me and said they were going to start with Frank and maybe with Peter, and they have. So I don't know if they'll get around to me or not. I haven't got a clue. Yeah, it's a company. It's a robot company, a robo company.
Yeah, RoboSen.
Yeah.
They put out a number of, they've got some kind of walking bumblebee, and they have a Grimlock that transforms. I don't know if they contacted Greg Berger on that one.
They would have to.
But
they would have
yeah,
to,
if they want the original voice, absolutely, 100%.
But they'll probably treat me the same way they did with the original movie, with the Michael Bay movies. When that came out, I heard them interview when the first one was going to come out, and they said, we'd like to use a lot of original voices. So I pulled my car over to the curb, took a deep breath, and called there, and I said, "Hi, this is Michael Bell." I managed to get through, and the guy said, "Oh my God, I'm such a fan." It was the assistant director. "I'm such a fan. I've watched the show. I grew up with you. Blah blah blah." Such. I said, "Great. Are you going to be doing the voice of Prowl?" And he said, "None of your characters." And I said, "Okay. Will you be using Jack Angel for?" He said, "No, because I'm good friends with Jack." I said, "What about Greg Berger?" No. I said, so I didn't go as far as Peter and Frank. So I said, "Well, we're actors. We've done on camera. Maybe we could, just because it would be fun for the fans, if we are extras or background performers." So I could be that old dude sitting on the couch saying, "What the hell is that?" One of those things. And then Greg Berger can go running down the street saying, "Oh, no, save me," say whatever. And we'd all be there. He said, "What a great idea." And I said, "Yeah." He said, "No."
Oh, man.
And that was the end of it.
Yeah, I always thought I've been pitching Kevin Eastman on this, try to get one of the some Ninja Turtle movie, down the road, a live action one, to use the four of us original voices just as a little Easter egg, a couple of doo-wop singers, on a street corner or something like that, just real quick, not credited, not anything, but just a little.
Fun for the fans, but they weren't interested.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could see you all playing poker at a table, and then they fight their way behind you, and you're like,
absolutely, looking up and saying, "Look at the hell of that! What is that sucker?"
Right. Or just treat it like, I've done that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
We have a question up here. Oh, we got one over here. Another one. Yeah, he's got one more.
Well, if they ever do any of your characters for RoboSen, I think Prowl or Sideswipe will be the best option.
Well, from your mouth to Mike Bay's eyes.
All right, we have one here, and then we have one over there. So, that's just
This guy first, yeah.
See, the fans here are so nice.
I want to watch him fight.
Right. Yeah, this could get
Next
ugly.
question, we're going to drop a mic right there, and you're going
Don't
to
let him
fight
grab
over
the
it.
mic from you. Kick his ass.
We'll have a wrestling match, yeah.
And I'm trying not to have a double microphone hit here. So thank you both for being here. Townsend, for you, one of my favorite performances of yours, though, selfishly, because growing up, I had to babysit my cousin a lot. I loved you in Gem and the Holograms.
All right. Well, thank you. Yeah.
I thought it was cool when we finally had Riot and we had another group coming in here to cause some problems. Yeah. Were you ever, and you just said bring us in as doo-wop singers, did you want to sing any of the roles? Were you just the speaking? I know with Riot, you were the speaking voice. They had another singer do the vocals.
Right.
Did you ever want to do both? Was that not in the...
No.
No?
No, I sing a little bit. I just cartoon singing, but not that kind of cartoon singing. I'm definitely not a rock and roll singer. So no, I was just as happy to provide the speaking voice for Riot. Yeah, thanks.
And for Michael, Pride of the X-Men, you were the original Cyclops for me because that was the cartoon I knew before we got the animated series. Any other X-Men you would love to voice? I know they're with the new X-Men 97 and they're trying to bring back. Do you have a choice mutant you'd like to voice?
Okay, this is painful. I've never watched the show.
Okay.
Never watched it. I never watched cartoons. did them. Never watched. I watched the earlies, obviously the Mel Blancs thing as I was growing up, and I think I stopped after Bambi. It was so painful. I don't want to see that again, I said. So I never watched cartoons. I think I didn't see Transformers till 30 years later. I joined Greg Berger in the back of a theater. They had some sort of event. And after the film was over, I said, that was damn good. That music was great. That was fun. Whoa, no wonder everybody's making a fuss over that. I love that. That was great. I never saw the movie G.I. Joe. I never saw the movie. I don't think it did well. At least I think that was Don Johnson's fault. But other than that, no, I didn't. I've never watched it, so I wouldn't know. Honestly, wouldn't. Honestly, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, with those films, they killed you in one, and then they almost killed you in the other, but they changed their mind in the last minute.
Well, they killed me as Sven.
They did
Voltron.
kill. Yeah.
They killed me as Prowl. Somebody once from one of you guys in the group said, "How did it feel being killed as Prowl?" I said, "I loved it. Who wants to work?" What are you kidding me? How do I feel? Get out. And then they killed me as Sven, and they said, when they told me, we're going to kill you as my character as Duke. And I said, kill Don Johnson. Who cares about him? Don't kill me. And they talked about it, and they said, fine, maybe we'll come up with another toy.
Right. Please.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I have actually a question for Mr. Coleman and one for Mr. Bell. First, Mr. Coleman, thank you for just making our childhood...
Townsend is fine.
All right.
Yeah, Mr. Coleman would be my dad.
You make me call you Mr. Coleman.
Well, yeah, well, that's different.
Oh.
Yeah, that's what you write on my checks.
Yeah. Oh, God. A heartfelt thank you just on behalf of all the fans for making our childhoods awesome, the two of you. And you've kind of already confirmed the question I had if you had any upcoming projects on the horizon, which kind of haven't been confirmed yet. But I assure you that if you started a petition, there'd be millions of fans getting behind it to have you cameo in the animated or the Last Ronin or just some examples. So if you put that out there, I'm just saying we'll get behind it and try to get you guys in there. So.
Thanks, dude. I would love to see that. Yeah.
A cameo, whichever it's going to be, voice acting, start a petition with the other 4 or 5 with April as well, and we'll do our best. So.
Yeah, thanks. I would love that.
We're recording this, so out to the universe it goes. Yes.
Out into the universe.
Petition. Yeah. Bring the OGs back in any way possible. So.
There you go. Last Ronin.
Yeah.
Michelangelo. Townsend Coleman. There you go.
And then simply, I was wondering, for the Legacy of Kain, how did you come by the role of Raziel?
Well, I slept with the producer, and
was it a male or a female producer?
I'm from Hollywood.
Okay. Not even going to ask then. Go ahead.
Okay. Actually, I think it was just went out there to everybody, and you audition your little brains out, and Amy Hennig, who was producing it, said, that's the voice I want, and I was fortunate that they gave me the opportunity. I play a lot of other characters in there, about 5 or 6 different. You have to be able to do that, as Townsend knows. You can't just walk in with one voice. So I was fortunate, and I'm told somebody has been telling me that they're coming back with the game again. They're going to be doing a big thing. So I'll play Raziel's grandfather, more than likely. Yeah. Kickstarter, yeah. Yeah, the origin story. The origin, yeah. Oh, cool. Yeah, well, that would be great fun. I'd love to do that. Of course.
Thank you for your $5.
Great. No. It's a legendary character. Okay.
Hey. All right, guys, thanks for coming. I met you both before. Thank you for coming for the second time to RetroCon, Michael Bell. Thank you. I have a question in regards to voice direction. Who are your favorite directors to have worked with, and what are some of your favorite projects that you work with those directors in?
Oh, wow.
The audience.
What's that?
They're listening.
I know. Be careful.
Be careful.
They're all our favorites, but here's some examples.
Yeah. Well, one one of the early ones that I worked with was Gordon Hunt over at Hanna-Barbera. And Gordon was just classic. And I remember before I moved out to LA, which was 40 years ago, I was going out to LA to audition for, to be the host of a dance show, if you can believe it. And on the plane out there, I read Gordon Hunt's book on auditioning, having no idea who Gordon Hunt was. But I just thought this book looked curious to me, and I, picked it up and I read it on the plane out there. And then, a year and a half later, I'm now moved to LA and found myself doing a series over at Hanna-Barbera for Gordon Hunt. It was crazy. So Gordon was a fave. Ginny McSwain, Sue Blue, of course. She directed all of our Ninja Turtles and The Tick. So we were very close. Andrea Romano and all the great, Warner Brothers stuff that she was doing. This is what I worked with her on. And those are probably my 4 off the top of my head faves right there.
Did Gordon ever sign your book?
I'm sorry?
Did Gordon sign your book?
He did not. No.
I would look him up and, maybe.
It's too late.
It's a little too late now.
Be a little late now, yeah.
It's too late.
Get a time machine. I think there's a DeLorean here. So you can.
Booth in the sky.
Right.
For me, it was Ginny McSwain, I think.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the most because she was very clear and she didn't give me line readings. Line readings are deadly for an actor. So she was very, very careful. And I think Gordon probably is up there. But basically, Ginny McSwain, who Darkwing Duck, stuff like that, yeah.
Ginny McSwain was an early favorite for me, and I'll tell you why. Because the first time I worked for her, and I didn't know really anything about her, and she didn't know anything about me, and so we got to chatting after the session. She said, "So where are you from?" And I said, "I'm from Cleveland, and I've only been out here for about 2 years." And she said, "Oh my gosh, my brother's in Cleveland." I said, "Oh really? What's he doing?" She said, "Well, he's the headmaster of a private boys prep school." I said, "Well, that's interesting because I went to a private boys prep school." And I said, "What's his name?" And she told me, and I said, "Oh my gosh, that's the same school I went to. He was my 8th grade civics teacher." So this was Ginny McSwain's brother.
You sucked up like crazy, didn't you?
Yeah, I couldn't help myself.
We have another question back there.
Hi there. Big fan of both of you, but my question is specifically for Townsend. Looking up your career, I just found out today that you did a voice for the original Transformers cartoon in 1984. You were Rewind. Mm-hmm. So my question for you, you obviously had known of Transformers before. Uh-huh. And when you received the script or got the audition for Sentinel Prime in Transformers Animated, A, did you take a look over the script? And B, what was your opinion on Transformers Animated being kind of a large departure from the original storyline of Transformers before then? Yeah, it was a very different sort of series, and they were going in a bit of a different direction. But again, what we were saying earlier about the writer-producers being big fans of The Tick, I felt like they had a very specific idea of what they wanted Sentinel Prime to sound like and to be like. And so I kind of didn't think about it being a departure from the original G1 Transformers. And I just had a very small part on G1. Anyway, Rewind, I think, was only in like 2 episodes, 3 episodes, something like that. But so for me, Transformers Animated was a much meatier role, a beefier experience to get into that part for that season. I was really bummed at the end of it after that they canceled it after 3 seasons, because Sentinel Prime was just about to become Sentinel Magnus, and I was so looking forward to that. I thought, yes, this is great, and then they just pulled the plug on it. So
we were all sad about that. Go ahead.
Is that a child back there, or is that Frank Welker?
Is there a difference?
We'd never know the
Because
difference.
he'll
would we?
do anything to interrupt us.
Hi, gentlemen. Good to see you again. Appreciate you signing all my stuff. So, let's see. I had a Voltron question. When they did the season 2, it seemed like they just added more and more and more characters, but didn't add more and more actors. So I got to ask you, was that all actually planned out? Yes, Michael, you're going to voice this character, this character, this character, this character. A lot of them all talking to each other. Was it just like, we need somebody for this character? Michael, you can do that one.
Well, they were very cheap.
It's true.
They had us for 3 voices, and they were gonna work us like crazy. Not only that, this is hard to admit. I also had to do girls' voices. B.J. Ward and myself had the light voices, and the other actors like Peter and they were over here. And my voice was warm, and she was doing Aurora and Hagar the Witch, and I was doing young guys all the time. So they said, Mike, we've got the scene, and they ran it, and it's all these little girls running from a monster. And in Japanese animation, they killed them. They weren't like American animation. They stepped on the kids, and they kicked them, and they squashed them. So I did a lot of, oh no, mommy, all that good stuff. And years late, and also they had mice in Voltron, and we had to do the voices of the mice. Does anybody out there know how to do mice voices?
I just learned.
And how many of those autographs have you signed?
I signed a lot of those. And I also got a wart on that finger from it. And so years later, I'm watching it with my daughter, who's by this point, I think she's probably 19 or 20. And I was cruising the TV, and all of a sudden I see Voltron pops up. I went, oh, wow, oh my God, I've never seen it. I had not seen the show. So it popped up, and it was the one with the girls screaming and crying. And I thought, I'm pretty good. No one's going to get that. My daughter goes, is that you playing a girl?
You say, wait a second, Dad?
I said, never mind, not important. And there's more of that. I said, when is this going to stop? When are they going to stop dying? And I'm going, oh, help me, mommy. And she went, I think that's you as the little girl, isn't it? After the 3rd time, I said, all right, shut up. It paid for your college education. That was me.
All right, looks like we have another question over here.
Thank you both for everything. I know you said you didn't really watch the shows after they were done, but once you get like a role or cast as a role on either like an existing or a new show that's based on previous work, like Ninja Turtles, for instance, or Transformers, do you go back and research the characters or the story up till then, or do you prefer to take it fresh as you're moving forward? Like,
if you have plans to recast it, I will look them up. I don't know. I don't remember ever doing that. I mean, if you go to the session, they'll play something for you. They'll give you an idea of what you sounded like. I mean, they have it. They already got it. I don't think I've ever been in that situation where I had to go back and redo that voice for a new show. For the same show, maybe the following season, but certainly not for a new show, no.
Yeah, there have been just a handful of occasions where I didn't remember a character that I'd done. I remember a couple of years ago we were recording the voiceovers for the new Ninja Turtle video game, Shredder's Revenge, which, by the way, yeah, thanks, you guys.
Which is fantastic.
Well, thanks. And I'll tell you, I thank you because that was the first time of all the video games that they have done of Ninja Turtles over the years, that was the first game that they ever used us for the voices. Any games prior to that had voices wasn't us. They were just, some non-union actors. They were getting to kind of mimic us, or they were just noises, hoots and hollers and shouts and stuff. But so when we were doing the session for Shredder's Revenge, they had me playing Michelangelo, of course, and to be honest, I don't remember which of my characters are on that game, except I do remember at the session they had me doing a character named Razar. Now, I had no recollection of this character. I didn't even remember the character, much less whether or not I had done it. It's as if I'd never heard of this character before. And I said, yeah, I don't remember that. I don't think that's me. And they're like, no, it's you for sure. I'm like, really? Okay, well, do you happen to have a reference of it? And they did. They played me a reference, and sure enough, it was me. And it was a voice that not only do I not remember the character, but I didn't even remember doing that voice. It was it was a very deep voice. I mean, it was a character I couldn't have begun to tell you, what I had done on it. So, fortunately, they had the reference, and I was able to do it. But yeah, I mean, there are a lot of characters. I'm sure it must have happened to you.
Well, that's in the business. It's called voiceheimers.
right. Yeah, right. Well, you just forget,
forget,
and somebody had asked the question earlier about all the various characters that they were doing on Voltron, for instance. Well, you got to understand that back in those days, the way the SAG contracts were written is that they had us for 3 voices per episode. So Michael was right when they say it was a money thing. They didn't want to spend money, so they looked for every opportunity to not hire extra actors. So whatever actors were on an episode to begin with, if you only had one character, they gave you 2 more incidentals just to fill out your dance card, just so that they could save themselves some money.
And you had to be prepared. I mean, that's what that was the differentiation between us and Tom Cruise. And there's a lot of differences besides that, obviously. But that was the major difference, is the fact that, with a lot of your on-camera actors, is when you see cartoons, Disney and some of the other companies, it's basically them, unless it's Robin Williams or, somebody of that ilk, rest his soul, who really can do different characters. It's basically them. When it's us, we have to do, you got you for 3 voices. Right. And you come up with that. You can't do more than that. So you come up with the 3rd voice, and they throw it at you at the last moment. You rarely don't get the day to do it or 2 days in advance to come up with it. You have to be prepared. And I remember for I think it was one of the shows, Darkwing Duck, I think it was. They said, "Okay, Michael, you're going to be playing Cracker Jack," and I said, "Okay, great." And I was working on this thing, and I said, "I'm going to try Kirk Douglas. I'm going to use a Kirk Douglas. I like his kind of crackling kind of sound like that. That'll be kind of fun." And Dan Castellaneta's character was first before mine, and he did that. Oops. So I should have worn a diaper because I really wasn't prepared. And I went, okay, well, I'll come up with something, because as soon as my character had a dog, and I came up with the Cracker Jack voice. But I originally wanted to do that. That's how you prepare. And when people always talk about doing voiceovers, we plagiarize, don't shade your eyes. That's why God made your eyes, so you plagiarize.
Yeah, there you go.
And so you plagiarize famous actors of that period. I think when we first started out, years ago, we were doing Boris Karloff and Peter Lorre and all the actors that were wonderful, wonderful voices in movies. There's not that many now. I mean, but in those days, yeah, we sort of pulled from them. Yeah.
We have one right here.
Michael, you were talking about playing Peter Criss and having to pull off doing an actual person. Townsend, you played Wayne Gretzky in Pro Stars. What was it like? How did you decide to be the voice of, a hockey player, not exactly someone with a lot of character to him?
Yeah, well,
despite he was on SNL, but yeah.
Well, so in the case of, so I've done a number of shows where they wanted me to do a voice like Wayne Gretzky, but they didn't want me to sound like Wayne Gretzky. They just want me to use my own voice. I said, so you don't want him to be Canadian at all, even? Nope. Okay. So it was just me. It was like when I did Teen Wolf and I was Scott Howard, doing the Michael J. Fox part, of course. They didn't want me trying to do Michael J. Fox or anything like that. They said, no, just do you. I'm like, all right, okay. So yeah, so as far as Wayne went, it was It was just me. Yeah.
That's what you deal with. I mean, you have to say, okay, I got it, and give it to them. They go, gee, that was great. And you go and get in your car and say, what schmucks? I mean, gee, what were they thinking? I mean, that sounded like me. That was just me doing, and they said, that really sounded like him. No, it didn't sound anything like him. There's a hand back there.
Yeah.
There's a couple.
Okay. Hi, Michael. Hi, Townsend.
Hey.
Good to see you both here. Well, I was going to go with a deep cut here. First of all, I have 2 questions for both of you. Michael, my question was going to be, I know that you were the voice of Dick Dastardly in the Universal Studios ride, the Fantastic World of Hanna-Barbera, that ride. And I wanted to ask, what was it like working on a theme park ride, doing a voice for a theme park ride, and what made you do that part as opposed to Paul Winchell, as he was usually voiced by? And as for you, Townsend, this is
I have no memory.
Well, this is a more of a tongue-in-cheek question, but I wanted to ask if you could be mutated into any kind of animal aside from a turtle, obviously. What kind would it be and why? And what would your name be?
If you could be mutated into any kind of animal, like humaniform animal, other than a turtle, what would he be?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe if you ever saw the Tick, I love the idea of being Speak, the capybara. So yeah, a capybara would be it.
Would you like to be mutated into an animal, Michael? I mean, I don't have the equipment in my car. It would take a little more prep. But if you were, what kind of animal would you be?
I don't know what I would sound like as an animal. I mean, I've been toast for commercials. I've been. I don't know how many of you remember Parquet butter Parquet. That was me. They said you're going to be a tub of Parquet, and I said, what is that? I said, all right, Parquet butter. Fine, I'll do it.
That just brought me back.
And it bought my house.
Classic.
I call my house Los Residuales. But as far as an animal is concerned, I did the Inhumanoids, and I had to play a huge, monstrous lump of phlegm that kills you.
There you go.
Literally, it was a killer. Lost my voice for about 3 or 4 days after that because there's a lot of. And boy, oh boy.
Sounds like a demonized Donald Duck. We actually have one more question, and then I think that's going to be our last question because unfortunately we're running out of time.
But it's not possible.
Mr. Bell, this is for you. Looking through your very, very long catalog of voices that you have done, I noticed that you were in the first 2 Baldur's Gate games, and I wondered if you had kept up with the game franchise at all, because I know that the...
That's so... Oh my God, you must have been a mere child.
I was very, very small, but I noticed, I was like, oh my gosh, you were in the first 2 Baldur's Gate games.
Baldur's Gate, that's so many years ago. I don't even remember why I was doing it. I remember video, I think I did the first, they told me I did the first video game ever done. Shows how old I am. It was, what is that little Pac-Man. I did a Pac-Man. How long ago that was, and I had no idea what a video game was, not a clue, and wound up doing the Pac-Man video game and just making sounds.
Yeah.
You know. Whatever it is, and I left, and I said, and they paid me for that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It's like I got a chance to do the voice of the 7-Up Dot, whose name was Spot. You know.
I want to meet the voice actor who did the sounds for Pong.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, right. Just doing that. Right. Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, it has been a great pleasure. Please visit them both at their table. Big round of applause.
Thank you,
for
guys.
2 voice acting legends.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
What are we going to do tonight, Brain? Same thing we do every night, Pinky. Watch Fandom Spotlite videos and then take over the world.
Hey, God, that's great! And maybe we should tell them all to have fun?
And follow their fandom. Then bow before my genius.